Destiny is simply the limitation imposed by an already exercised freedom of choice, or what is commonly called free will. William Kingsland. Rishi Vasistha, a Vedic revered sage, considered one of the mind sons of Brahma, was a peace-loving, selfless sage who taught humanity to end their sufferings through the means of self-effort. Yoga Vasistha is a text written as a dialogue between Rishi Vasistha and Lord Rama about the nature of life, creation, free will, spiritual liberation, and so on. It presents the ideas of Vedanta and Yoga. Rishi Valmiki, who probably resided during 500 BC, is attributed as the composer of this marvelous text. He is believed to have got the intuition of Rama's period through his meditative powers and wrote the epic Ramayana along with Yoga Vasistha. Vasistha taught Rama that self-knowledge is the ultimate solution to all human suffering and can never be achieved without strong determination and will to know the nature of self. This reminds us of the story of Prahlad. Prahlad was the son of the demon king Hiranyakashyap. Although he was born to the demon clan, he was a selfless devotee of Lord Vishnu. Hiranyakashyap despised Vishnu, for he viewed him as the supporter of gods. One day, furious with the relentless prayers of Prahlad, he forgot his fatherhood and decided to kill his son. Vishnu came to the rescue of his devotee as one of the incarnations called Narasingha and killed Hiranyakashyap. Prahlad's devotion intensified with the act, and he worshipped Vishnu day and night to see him. Vishnu was pleased and appeared before him. When Prahlad was asked for a boon, he chose to realize the true nature of the self. Vishnu replied that it is not possible for him or any other teacher to confer the nature of self on any person. It is only through his own thinking and meditation that one attains the self-knowledge. I can only point you in the direction and make you intellectually understand what it is like. But all of this are partial truth, and the actual illumination happens through your self-effort. Prahlad follows the instructions and attains a state of thoughtless samadhi. According to Vasistha, destiny is nothing but good or bad results of our own efforts put forth in the past, including the willful actions of our past lives that are ready to fructify. He believed that the present actions, done with unflinching determination, could change the course of destiny. The efforts made in the past and the efforts being made now oppose each other or support each other based on their directions, and the stronger one wins. Everyone, therefore, should exert to the fullest extent possible to negate the evil effects of fate and not yield by thinking of it as anything other than the results of your past actions. Self-effort is therefore of supreme importance in attaining self-knowledge to deter all the challenges in one's journey. Before we continue, we are excited to share some wonderful news with you all. Thanks to your overwhelming requests, we have created a new YouTube channel called Asangvani, dedicated to the calming chants and mantras from our videos. The link to the channel is in the description. In Indian philosophy, the source of knowledge has been an interesting problem. Various schools have identified different sources of knowledge, including sense of perception, inference, scriptures, etc. Vasistha asserted that direct cognition, termed pratyaksh in Sanskrit, is the only source of all our knowledge, be it external objects, self, or God. He firmly stresses that the ultimate truth can't be shown to us by inference or scriptures, but can only be revealed to one in his intuition. Just like the taste of sugar can't be known by reading about it and drawing inferences, but by direct intuition. Pratyaksh is not meant by mere sense perception alone, but rather the supervision of senses, feelings, awareness, and consciousness. Pratyaksh of self-knowledge requires time and dedicated efforts. Partial knowledge, or hinting towards the final truth, helps the aspirants to cognize the reality. This becomes possible through similes and analogies. Although intuition alone reveals the final truth, the way to reach it is through logical analysis and the use of intellect to discriminate. He strives to give an account of the ultimate truth by striking directly at the core of our experience, that is, subject versus object. All our experiences are reduced to a subject called ourselves, knowing about the plurality of the world through objects. This perception of the distinction between the two appears to have no common reality between them. But he argues that to perceive an object, there has to be unity behind the subject, object, and their relation. A stone can't perceive the taste of sugar because these are heterogeneous, but humans can, because there is an underlying common principle. Similarly, there exists an underlying reality behind all the subjects and objects called pure consciousness. All these perceptory things are embedded within the sea of all-embracing consciousness. Just like the underlying principle behind all the pots and potteries is clay, and all such objects are nothing but modifications of clay, the things of perception, including the subject I, are modifications of the pure consciousness. An example of a dream always helps to bring clarity to this point. In a dream, the subject, all the objects, and all the experiences are modifications of the dreamer's mind. Space, time, and things are simply imaginations and have no absolute reality. All exist relative to the mind and can be experienced differently by different thinking minds. One night of torment can feel like an entire lifetime, while the same night with a loved one can feel like a few minutes. Vista of miles can be presented within the canvas of a skillful artist, and within the constraining space of a small head, an infinite world can be conceived. Vasistha's philosophy of existence points towards idealism that is conceived only as ideas in an imaginative mind. The Absolute, which is in complete rest, desires to change out of its own will and gives rise to a cosmic mind. The cosmic mind, which Vasistha identifies as Brahma, is the world of ideas at the apex level. The contents of these imaginations are us, the individuals, and our common world constituting everything around us, including the mountains, rivers, solar system, the macrocosm, etc. Brahma, like the Absolute, imagines the creation just out of his sheer will or desire without any external compulsion. This gives rise to the silent sea of the all-encompassing consciousness and its constituents, just like the entire background and objects of dreams cropping up. Each unit or constituent becomes a center of free imagination itself and can be called a monad. The imaginative power of the Brahma continues in the monads to ideate their worlds. This gives rise to the mind of each monad and the constituents of the imagination. An infinite process of worlds within worlds continues to give rise to endless worlds, with each monad having its own objective world. All these worlds are of the same nature in that they are all psychic, and it is the ultimate absolute consciousness conceiving all of these through its power of multiplicative imagination. The world that arises in the experience of countless monads need not be of the same nature and contents. Some of the worlds may be inhabited by men, some by demons, and yet others by reptiles, and so on. Although the world experiences of other monads are unknown to us, there is a possibility to experience an unknown world, because ultimately everything is the absolute consciousness present everywhere. At this point, the biggest question that needs an answer is why there is a mutual experience of a common world between the inhabitants of a world. For example, we can go to a restaurant to eat one dish and share our experiences. If I'm imagining this, then why are you imagining this same thing? Vasistha would answer this question by categorizing states of existence and potentiality within each state. A dreaming state is an in-between state without the full potency of imagination. The waking state is of higher potency of imagination, where interactive and interpenetrating imagination is possible based on accidental commonality. In the imagination of the monad, who is conceptualizing the world I'm in, I have created a world where I could make this video and imagined you to watch this. You, as another character in the imagination of the same monad, are imagining to watch this video because our ideas happen to be accidentally common to each other. The fourth state, that is, Turiya, is the most potent state of pure imagination, where all the barriers vanish and the monad merges into the absolute consciousness itself, from whose standpoint the entire structure of the worlds within worlds becomes apparent and breaks itself from the chain. According to Vasistha, the mind is omnipotent and is capable of everything at once. As established earlier, our world and every other world that seems to exist is nothing but imagination. The phenomena of those worlds are also thoughts. The condition that you are in, be it pleasant or unpleasant, has been thought by the mind earlier. The conditions you want to achieve are also being thought of, and sooner or later would materialize in your world. However, the timing of materialization can't be exactly controlled by the mind and doesn't necessarily have to be conceived within this lifetime. No thought goes wasted, and it gives its fruit at the appropriate conception of time, in this life or another. No other agency can confer favors to us, and whatever seems to be gained by others is your aspirations and efforts. The secret ingredient to achieving anything is faith or belief. There is nothing true or false in itself, only that appears to be real in which you have faith. Whatever is thought of with intense faith, one begins to work towards it with unfettered determination, and it is sooner realized than the ideas held with lesser faith. Vasistha strongly advises abhyas, or practice, consisting of constant thinking, imagining, and working towards the idea for its successful materialization. However, he would caution you about misunderstanding the use of your imagination to fulfill your selfish desires. At the very core, any idea exists in one's mind to alleviate one's suffering. There are two kinds of suffering: general suffering, that seems to be resolved by achieving what is wanted, and ultimate suffering, whose root is in the cycle of birth and death. With the power of thought, the general suffering from the desire to get material things is resolved, but the mind shifts its goalposts very fast. As soon as one is achieved, another one is conceived, because there's no fixed ultimate goal in the pursuit of material things. During this pursuit, worrying about the negative effects like losing wealth or loss of health, etc., also becomes inevitable. But remember, worrying is again an imagination. By imagining these things, you're sowing the seeds of their materialization sooner or later. An intense desire for the material world always leads to disharmony in the mind and is thus the cause of all diseases, including physical and mental. Physical or mental pain and diseases are also general sufferings, the existence of which has been imagined by you, and your mind alone has the power to change it through your thoughts. Although chasing after the desire to attain materialistic things may seem to end our suffering, on the contrary, those thought powers are the very cause of our suffering. The condition of suffering or blissfulness all exist because of the thoughts. Thoughts originating due to ignorance lead to suffering, and thoughts originating due to knowledge lead to a happy, fulfilling life. Self-knowledge about the true nature of your existence is thus the only solution to overcome your general suffering and the ultimate suffering from the cycle of birth and death. To attain the ultimate self-knowledge, one has to utilize the power of thought and work towards it with utmost faith and determination. As opposed to Shankaracharya's philosophy of attaining self-knowledge, which emphasizes renunciation from all activities, Vasistha views renunciation of activities and duties as immaterial to attain the ultimate truth. He advises one to continue his worldly duties without attachment while experiencing pleasant or unpleasant phases of life with equanimity. Each of our lives has three aspects. Spiritual is the storehouse of all our instincts, tendencies, and dispositions. In modern times, it is often termed as the subconscious. Mental is the conscious life of thoughts, emotions, desires, etc. And the physical body is run on by the perpetual movements of the prana or the vital energies. All three are intimately related and interwoven. We must free ourselves from the limitations of the body, mind, and subconsciousness to merge with the Absolute. Vasistha proposes a scheme of 3 different methods. Any one can be selected according to one's convenience and bent of mind. Since all 3 layers are extremely interconnected, effective work on either of the aspects automatically molds the other 2 aspects of life. The first method: practice in deep affirmation of the one reality. One may meditate on the fact of his being one with the absolute Brahman, or through the affirmation of the unreality of the objects other than the self, or through the negation of the subject-object idea from reality. The second method is control and stoppage of the activities of the pranas. Since pranas and the mind are deeply interconnected, the constant practice of pranayama under the guidance of an expert teacher can result in the cessation of the mind. The absence of the mind leads to the dissolution of the objective world and thus union with the absolute Brahman. The third method is control and stoppage of the activity of the mind. The mind is dissolved only by one's effort or will. By strong determination, if one practices detachment, renunciation of desire but not duties, intense concentration on eternality, attainment of equanimity, etc., then the mind can be brought to dissolution and thus attainment of the liberation from all sufferings. The philosophy and means to attain self-knowledge flow as information from teachers to competent minds. Unless the mind is prepared both intellectually and morally, the teachings of even the most competent teacher fail to motivate and illuminate the person. 4 preliminary qualities are essential and need to be honed. They are all interrelated, and if one strives to perfect one, the others automatically get mastered. Number 1. Tranquility. He is said to be tranquil, who neither desires nor denounces any object, and has complete control over his senses. Number 2. Contentment. He is said to be contented, who is not affected by what he has got, and not desirous of what he has not got. Number 3. The company of the wise. He who is surrounded by wise and righteous people automatically prepares his mind for self-knowledge. And number 4. Thinking. Thinking leads to the attainment of peace and is completely different from worrying. Thinking consists of logical investigation and critical analysis of the problem. The solution to our suffering lies in the self-inquiry of "What am I?" Yoga Vasistha teaches that the world of experiences within its objects, space and time is the creation of the mind. As imagination gives rise to an entire world out of nowhere in our dreams, the waking world is also a similar outcome of the imaginative mind. The present conditions of our lives, including physical health, mental health, societal position, etc., are the results of our own imaginations in the past. All sufferings and cheerfulness of life exist because we thought of it either in this life or earlier. With our imagination and efforts alone, we can get out of the sufferings. Attainment of worldly objects is only an apparent and temporary solution to our misery. The real and permanent remedy lies in breaking the cycle of life and death. The key to achieving that is imagination, powered by strong belief. If one begins to affirm with conviction that he is the absolute consciousness himself, and everything, including this body and mind, is just an imagination, he breaks free from all limitations and ends all his sufferings.